You ready?
All right, the Most High be praised. This time we want to prepare ourselves for our class. Those of you who are joining with us by live stream, I want to say welcome to you, shalom to you. Welcome to School of Messiah Bible Institute. We welcome you for being part of this class session that we're having. For those of us who are joining with us for the first time, I want to inform you that this class session is a Hebrew review. We have finished the course in Hebrew language about 3 weeks ago. And so what we're doing at this time for the next 4 weeks, we're having Hebrew review to go over the homework that our students have been given to help them to be able to navigate through the homework, to also have a better understanding of what to do with regards to the exercises. So this is not one of our official classes. However, it will be beneficial for those who are interested in learning Hebrew. We will be going over some of the information that we've already covered in our previous classes. But just for the record, I do want to say that this class session is a Hebrew review. So let us begin with a word of prayer, and then we will get into the class. Father Yahuah, we do bless you. We thank you for your mercies, your kindness, and your graciousness toward us. We ask for your guidance as we provide a review of the material and also of the exercises for the homework that has been provided. And we pray that you would cause each student to have a better understanding of the material and also to be able to recognize the lettering system and the phonetics. We do pray in Messiah Yahshua's name. Amen. All right. So last week we covered some of the exercises in lesson 4 of this course. Lesson 4 had to do with adjectives. Also, it had to do with nouns. And we were looking at how to translate when given a Hebrew phrase such as a noun and adjective, and vice versa if we had a phrase given where we had an English phrase and we needed to translate that into Hebrew. And so I trust that students have been able to complete your homework. I know that there was some homework completed. I received it. So I trust that the rest of you were able to complete lesson 4 and to get that under your belt. Today, I wanted to look at lesson 5, or if the students have mastered lesson 5 and you were able to work through lesson 5, then we can go on to another lesson that might need to have some things addressed. So I want you all to tell me, what do we need to look at today?
I did all of it.
Lesson 5?
Yeah, I did all of it.
Okay, lesson 5 is done. Now, you may not need to do lesson 5, but do you need to do lesson 5?
I haven't done it yet, but I'm looking at it right here. I don't really think like we need to go through it. If you want to go through number 6, I think that's
Okay, you feel comfortable enough with working through the exercises to complete the exercises without
so.
any assistance?
I think so, yeah, as I'm looking through it right here.
Okay, okay. All right. Because we have exercises in part 5, there's what's called regular plural forms. So The plural forms basically will be with having to make sure you put, if it's masculine, you will put the yod mem on the end of a word in the plural. If it is feminine, you will put the wav ta on the end of a word. So I'm assuming that you all understand how to do that.
Mhm.
Okay. Then we'll go to, let's see, lesson 6 is not, doesn't have any exercises. Lesson 6 was a lesson where we actually were translating Hebrew words. That's what lesson 6 was about. It was primarily translating the Hebrew words and deriving the meanings of the words. But let's see, I believe lesson 8, however, lesson 8 has exercises. So, tell me, which problems do you all want to look at in lesson 8? I'm looking at the exercises in lesson 8 now, section A. Does everyone know how to do that?
I think it was saying something about in B, write the personal pronouns for memory without vowels.
Okay, so,
I did it, but I don't know if I did it right.
okay. So for lesson A, where it says write the plural of the following, everyone is good with how to do that?
Mhm.
Okay. And then it says write the personal pronouns from memory without vowels. So the personal pronouns, we'll need to go and look at the personal pronouns. So, personal pronouns. If we go to the second page of the notes, personal pronouns is where you have in the singular, you have the I, you, he, she, and then the plural, you have the we, you, they. So what they want you to do with the personal pronouns, and that will be related to section A, where you have the words given, they want you to give the personal pronoun. So let's look at A. Let's just give an example of that. So for A, we have trying to get that word. Okay. Okay, number 3, where it has sha'ar, right?
Mhm.
What does that word mean? Sheen, Ein, and the Resh. What's the meaning of that word? You can go back to your vocabulary in the notes so you can find it.
Gate.
Gate. Gate. So if we're going to write the plural of the word gate, we have to ask the question, is this a masculine or a feminine word? Was that?
Masculine.
Masculine word, okay. So here we have the word shar, gate. Since it's masculine, what do we use for plural form on the end?
Yod and Mim.
Yod, right. Okay. Sharim. Sharim. This will be gates. Okay? Now, let's do another. And then after we do this, we're going to go and look at the pronouns.
I got a quick question.
Yes.
So, like, for all these words, all these masculine plural words end with Mim. They end with Yod Mim.
Yod Mim, yes.
Do you want it? Because what I learned and Googled is that there's a few letters that when they're at the end of the word, they look different, like the noon and the meme.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to use the finals.
Okay.
And that's something that we discussed. That in Hebrew, particularly the way Hebrew is taught from Rabbinic Judaism, they have included the final forms for certain letters.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that.
Okay.
Just write the letter the way it is.
All right.
So that's the way it would be written in ancient texts.
Mm.
The forms, the final forms, is something that was developed within Rabbinic Judaism, and we're not doing that. We want to be able to get accustomed to reading and writing for the purpose of reading ancient texts. Now, for the purpose of reading rabbinic texts, then of course we do want to know the final forms. And of course, within your material, we're going to give to you the final forms so that you can have that. But with respect to what we're doing and for the purposes that we want to achieve, we want to be able to recognize the letters.
Okay.
Because if you read ancient texts, you're not going to see final forms in ancient texts. And I'm talking about pre-rabbinic texts. All right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's...
But they be using them in these, though, in the exercise.
Oh, yes. And that is because
It's a,
the resource that we're using is a resource by someone who knows Hebrew from Rabbinic Judaism.
right.
That's the reason behind it. Okay? So anytime you have a formal Hebrew course, that's how it's going to be taught and presented.
Right.
So what I'm doing, I'm trying to get our minds to not be limited and structured to Hebrew from solely the Rabbinic Jewish manner in which is presented, but I want us to understand the Hebrew so that we can go back and look at it for the purpose of reading ancient texts.
Yeah.
That's the purpose. So next word we're going to look at pay. That's a resh. Looks like a resh. Sometimes I have to get close up on it. Okay, yeah. Oh, here's a good one. Number 5, menorah. So we have the mem. We have the nun. We have the wav. We have the resh. And we have the hey. Right here. Mem, nun, wav, resh, hey. Menorah. Menorah. Now, all of us know what the menorah is, right? So we want to put this in the plural form. All right? Okay. So we put this in the plural form. What do we do?
That one's feminine.
Uh-huh.
So it was the Yod and the Tav?
What's that?
Not the Yod. Was it it's the something at the top.
It's the Wav.
The Wav and the Tav.
Wav and the Tav. Yes.
Would be Menorah.
Yeah, you basically got it. You want to look at the feminine? Generally, what happens is that when you have the hay at the end, is that you remove the hay and you put the wav and the tav. So it will be menorot. Will look like this.
Yeah.
Everybody get that?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it will look. So what you want to do, you want to review the plurals. Let me go back to the plurals. So here's one of the rules when we're dealing with the feminine plurals. All right? If you go back to lesson 5, second page. For the feminine plurals, what you want to remember is this. Feminine nouns and adjectives generally form their plurals by dropping the hay. So if you have a noun and you have a hay at the end of it, such as, in this case, where we have the word menorah, we have the hay. When we make it plural with the wav tav, we know because of the hay that it is feminine. This word is feminine because the general rule is feminine words have a hay at the end. That's a general rule. That's a general rule. It's not every case. There are some exceptions, but the general rule is words ending with the hay at the end is feminine. However, when we make it plural, we drop the hay, which will leave us with the mem, nun, wav, and resh, and we add right here wav, tav. This here is pronounced ot. So this would be menorot. So menorah, menorot. This means menorahs, more than one, plural. Okay. So this is the rule you want to remember. You want to write it down. If you don't remember the rule, you want to write it down. However, go to lesson 5, page 2. Go to lesson 5, page 2. Highlight that. That's something you want to remember, especially when you are taking singular feminine words and you are converting them into feminine plural words. All right? Everyone have that particular lesson 5, notes for it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you want to highlight that. So on the second page, under where it says grammar and notes, under nouns with adjectives, it will be 1B. Right there is where you want to highlight it. Okay? That's the instance where you drop the last letter, you drop the hay. Right? So now, personal pronouns. That's something that we want to get accustomed to. Now, it says in the exercises, write the personal pronouns from memory, if you can. If it's difficult for you to remember, then just go back to page 2 of lesson 8. And let's look at the words. What are the personal pronouns? Do any of you remember the personal pronouns? No? Yes? No?
I mean, no, but I got them right here.
Okay. All right. So, personal pronouns. These are your I, you, thou, he, it, or she, it, in the singular. So if I'm going to say, I go to the store, if I say something like that, I would start with the word ani or anaki. So you have the aleph, nun, and the yod. This is aleph, nun, and yod, ani. Ani is I. Okay. Another word this is aniki. The way you would pronounce it, you don't have the yod here, but it would be anaki. Ani or anaki. Aleph, nun, kaf. This is the kaf and the yod. The kaf is like a backward C. That's a kaf, and we're using the block script here. Okay. So these are two ways of saying personal pronoun I. You know, like I went to the store. I'm going home. You would say ani or anaki. Okay? I. That's I. It's easier just to remember ani. Okay? That's saying I. So now how do you say you? How do you say you? And I encourage you to take notes with respect to this right here. These are the personal pronouns. So now you want to say you. Okay? You is ata. Ata. Aleph, tav, hey. Ata. That's you. That's the personal pronoun you. You know how we say, when we speak the blessing, we say, Baruch atah, Baruch atah. What does Baruch mean? Bless, right? So when you say atah, you're saying you. It's saying bless you or blessed are you. So when we say Baruch atah Yahuah, we're saying blessed are you, Yahuah. That's what we're saying. But atah is the personal pronoun right here. Atah. Got it? Atah. It's you. It's a personal pronoun. So there are words that you hear. You'll hear it in the blessings that we speak. And you may not know how to spell it, but here's how you spell it. Ata. Aleph, Tav, Hey. Okay? Yeah, lost my cat. Let me get the cat. So this is the personal pronoun for you. That's the masculine. It's the masculine personal pronoun. The feminine personal pronoun is at. At. Aleph and the Tav. Okay? So for this right here, this is the masculine that we started off with. Ata, that's masculine for personal pronoun for you. Okay? Feminine. Feminine is at. Aleph and the Tav. At. Okay?
It's kind of interesting though, because
Okay.
other times the feminine word ends in hey.
Feminine words can end in the hey, or it can end with the tav.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the interesting part about the other word, seeing it was masculine, all right, it also has the hey,
Yeah.
which, denotes feminine. That's why I said that the rules are not always the same. In the general sense, words ending with the hey is regarded as feminine. Then there are instances where words ending with the hey are both masculine and feminine. Okay? But in this instance, with the personal pronouns, however, the masculine that's used has the hey on it, the feminine has the tav, where it's just at. Okay? So as a personal pronoun, in the feminine, for you, it's at. You got that? Ata and at. Okay? It's personal pronoun. So now let's look at he and she. He and she. Personal pronoun for he and she. So for he, like, he went to the store. He has a menorah. He went to Shabbat service. Okay, so for he, the word is hua. So we have the hey, the wav, and we have the aleph. Hey, wav, and the aleph. Masculine, the personal pronoun he. Hua. Hey, wav, aleph. Hua. Hu, ah, hua. See that? That's how you say he. Personal pronoun he. Now the feminine, she. All right. The difference between the masculine and the feminine is that instead of having the wav in the middle, you have the yod in the middle. It would be here. Here. That's she. Personal pronoun. She. Remember, the yod is a vowel. The Wav is a vowel. Now, since we learned about vowels and the letters in the Hebrew from the ancient time that were designated as vowels, when you see them in the middle of a word, you're able to pronounce it without having to look around for the vowel designations. Because you already know that the Wav is a vowel, the Yod is a vowel. You know that the Hey is a vowel. Okay? Remember we learned that earlier in previous lessons? So when you see the word, because you know I'm not using the vowel designations, however, in your notes, you'll see the vowel designations there. But I haven't taken the time to go through that because if you know what the vowels are, you can look at the word and pronounce it. Just like in the English word, when you know the A, E, I, O, and U, when you look at the word, you have the consonant, vowel, consonant, you know how to pronounce the word. And in the earlier phonetics of Hebrew, that's what you did. There were no vowel designations. There were no dots or dashes or anything like that. But by the same token, they also did not pronounce the language using purely consonants, as you hear some Israelite groups that will use consonants in their phonetics. That was never a part of the original Hebrew phonetics. So here we see Hia, and then she. Okay? Personal pronouns. I do want to remind us that one of the evidences that reveals to us the vowels in the Hebrew language is when we look at how the names were translated. Say, for example, we know that the Hebrew text in the 3rd century BCE was translated from Hebrew to Greek. We know that. That text, that translation is called the Septuagint. When they translated, they were looking for equivalent words in the Greek language that had similar meaning to those words in the Hebrew. However, when they translated proper names, they translated proper names by what we would call transliteration. Transliteration is where you find the equivalent letter of one language and you use that one to replace the equivalent letter of another language. So, for example, you take the letter that's in Hebrew, you find the equivalent Greek letter that produces the same sound. So when they did that, they wanted to preserve the way in which the name was pronounced. There's an example that I love to use in showing this. And I'm going to do this for us. Here's the Dalet, the Wav, and the Dalet. This name is pronounced Dawid. That's how it's pronounced in Hebrew. Dalet, Wav, Dalet. Now, when it's not a proper name, it is pronounced Dod, where the Wav has the O vowel designation instead of the U. As a proper name, This here is the Uid, where the Wav has the U, but the Eid, which would be designated with a, it's hard for me to write. This is what you would need by sight to pronounce this as Dawid, because you have the Da-U-E-D, Dawid. Now, this spelling is found in the writings of Ezra, which is a later rendering of the name of Dawid, referring to King Dawid. Ezra spells it Dalet, Wav, Yod, Dalet, because he spells it the way in which it sounds. But when you look at the other books, such as Kings or Samuel, it's spelled like this. And as I mentioned before, in Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, they had a tendency to drop vowels. Okay? So they see the name like this, they knew it was pronounced Dawid, but they didn't feel the need to show the Yod there in order to do it. You understand? Now, the way we know that the vowels were there is when we look at the translation. Okay? When they took this word and translated it into Greek, what they did, they gave you the delta, which is a D sound. They gave you the alpha, upsilon, iota, delta again. Now this is the delta in the capital form in the Greek. Okay? This is the alpha in the lowercase form. It looks like a lowercase a, because to be honest with you, our letters, which comes from Rome, English letters come from Roman letters. It's a Roman lettering system. And the Romans got their letters from the Greeks. So this right here, this is the delta, alpha, upsilon, iota, delta. This is how they spelled this here. Now, of course, when the translation occurred from Hebrew to Greek, the individuals who translated from Hebrew to Greek were priests from the temple who translated this. So you're talking about Hebrews. So when you look at the translation, when they translated the Hebrew into Greek, because they knew both languages, they knew both Hebrew and Greek. When they put it in the Greek language, they preserved the vowels. You see that? Okay? And this is something that's not always discussed when we are trying to show that the Hebrew language has vowels in it. At least for those who want to put forth the idea that Hebrew only has consonants. We have evidence when we look in the translation. What they did was when they translated the proper names were spelled in the translated language to preserve the way that the name sounds when you phonetically sound it out. Da, u, id. That's how it is in Greek. So when you read the Septuagint and you look and see Dawid's name in Greek, you're going to see Dawid. You're not going to see David, because there is no V. There was no V at the time in which this translation took place in the 3rd century BCE. So the proper names, the way in which they're translated, it reveals to you that the Hebrew language has vowels. You see that? That's what you see. So like when we deal with like the word Yahshua, and we dealt with this before in an earlier lesson, we see a transliteration there as well. The only difference in the transliteration of Mashiach's name is that at the end of the transliteration, they could not transliterate the Ayin, because the Ayin ends in Ah. Ah, in the Greek language, it gives you a feminine designation for a name. So they did not want Messiah Yahshua to have a feminine name. Matter of fact, we're not going to even use HaMashiach in particular. We'll just use the name Yahshua because Joshua, the son of Nun, that's his name also. Yahshua, whether you say Yahshua or Yahoshua, either one, that's his name. There were multiple ways in which Yahshua, the son of Nun, had his name spelled. It was spelled and rendered in about 4 different ways when you look at the Hebrew text in different places. So when the Kohanim scholars from Jerusalem translated the scriptures from Hebrew into Greek, they translated it in such a way where they did not want him to be seen as a female. So at the end, they put the sigma at the end. So instead of having Yeshua, it will be Jesus. Okay? That's how they came up with that. All they did was preserve the masculinity of the person. Because, okay, let's just do it. We'll just do the translation. So we're going to go Yod. I'm going to do it like this. I'm not going to do the abridged name, Yod, Shin, Wav, Ayin. I'm going to do Yod, Hey, where you get Yah. And then we're going to do the Shin. And we're going to do the Wav, Ayin. Here we go. Yod, Hey, Shin, Wav, Ayin. Okay? That's Yahshua. It's been pronounced, or shall I say, it's been spelled a couple of different ways. It's been spelled, I'm just going to show you the different ways in which it's been spelled. This right here, Yod, Hey, Wav, Shin, Wav, Ayin. This is the longest spelling. This is Yahushua. This is the longest rendering. This would be the more original rendering of the name. Yahushua. That's the original rendering of the name. Okay? The other rendering of the name as it is spelled is like this. Yod, Hey, Wav, Shin, Ayin. This right here is pronounced Yahusha, but they never pronounced it Yahusha because they dropped vowels. They recognized the vowel of the Wav in between the Shin and the Ayin. And we've gone over this before in one of our lectures. But these are the 3 ways in which the name Yahshua, or Yahshua, the son of Nun, has been spelled, referring to the same person. All right? Now, when they translated it, the name, need some space for this. Okay, they used the iota. It's called the eta. Okay. So what they did when they transliterated it, for the yod, they used the iota. That would be the I. Okay? The yod, iota. And if you look at your chart, lettering system chart, and you look at the Hebrew and you look at the Greek, you will find that the equivalent for the yod would be the iota in Greek. For the hey, as a transliteration, they have what's called the heta. You see this? The heta. For the hey, transliterated, the heta. Sometimes it's pronounced the eta. And in the Greek, this carries a H and an E sound in Greek. There's another letter that specifically has the E sound, and it's called the epsilon. And it looks like an E. Well, the E comes from. Okay. But this here is the heta, eta, or heta. It's equivalent with the hey. Okay. The next letter, we have the sheen, and we have the sigma. Now, in Greek, there is no such sound as sh. Okay? So the closest thing is the sigma, the S sound, the s. So that's what they had to use. Okay? As they're transliterating. Now, here we have the wav here. The wav has both what? The O and the U sound, right? And when we say Yahuah, it has the U sound, right? So in preserving the wav, this vowel, they have these two letters together. They have the omicron, the O, and the upsilon. So you have the O and the U together. Oh, you see that? They're preserving that wav. They're preserving the vowel sound of the wav. See that? Right? Mm-hmm. Now, if they were to continue with this, with the ein and gave the alpha there, this would be a woman. Y'all see that? If they transliterated with the ein here, this would be a woman. Yeshua. It will be a woman. So in order to preserve the masculinity in this language, they use the sigma at the end. That makes this to be a man. Jesus. Jesus. Yahshua. So in translating, they transliterated it. That's what they did. That's how you came up with this Jesus. And of course, with that became Jesus with the Romans. And then in the English, when they took the J and substituted the J for the Y, it became Jesus. But originally in English, it was Jesus. Before they had the Y, before they had the J, before that letter came, it was Jesus. Jesus. But it all comes from Jesus. But this word is not, as some would say, a pagan word.
Yeah.
They say, oh, it's Hail Zeus. It's not. No. These were Hebrews. These were Kohanim who were doing the translation from Hebrew to Greek. And they weren't translating Yahshua or Yahushua to refer to Messiah Yahshua at all, because Messiah Yahshua had not yet come. You understand? This is just the name of Joshua the son of Nun. They were translating his name into Greek, and that's what they came up with. And so when we look at what we call the New Testament scriptures from the Greek translation, you get Jesus, which translates to Jesus or Jesus with the J in English. But there again, as I will say over and over again, this is not of pagan origin. This is important. We have to remember the scholarship when we're doing this, okay? All right? But this is the translation of this name. It's transliterated, but the N has a masculine designation, okay? That's the only reason why it is the way it is. So, thought I'd just throw that in there. Because when we're dealing with Hebrew and we start translating it, we got to remember that when you're dealing with other languages have different masculine and feminine determinations. So you don't want someone's name being given there and they're reading it and say, oh, well, this is a woman. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? So it's important that we understand this, because when we're dealing with scripture, we want to make sure that we do everything in a scholarly manner as best as we possibly can. All right? When we teach, we don't teach based upon what we think, what we feel, or what the going opinion is among those who we may relate to. We teach based upon the scholarship. That's how you teach. All right? You question everything. Don't just accept what someone, well, you know, I think that, no, you go back and you look at it and you discover how it was translated and who did the translating and why did they translate it like that. All right? So it's important that we understand all of this. You know, we got Hebrews. They were Kohanim, they were educated, they knew both the Hebrew language and the Greek language, and they were conveying these proper names in a way in which the people who would read them in the Greek language would see these individuals as either being masculine people or feminine people. That's how they had to deal with translating when they translated texts. All right? So, now, other than that, is there something else we need to look at in lesson 8? We looked at the personal pronouns. Oh yeah, we looked at she, he, I, thou, you in masculine, you in feminine. Oh, what we didn't look at the plurals like we. So yeah, let's look at that. Go ahead and look at that. All right. So for we, it's a word called anachnu. Anachnu. Yeah, that looks like the het.
Yeah.
Is that the het?
It looks like it's me.
Yeah, it looks like the het. So we have the aleph, we have the nun, we have the het. We also have the nun again with the wav. So here's the aleph, the nun, the het, the nun, and the wav. Anachnu. Anachnu. That's the personal pronoun we. Doesn't matter whether masculine or feminine is the same. Anachnu is we. Now, see where we have the nun and the wav here at the end? Anytime you see the nun and the wav at the end of certain words, it's giving you a designation of we or our or us. That's what that is referring to. Yes, like Abinu. If I said Abi means my father. Abinu with the nun and the wav at the end means our father. So this is a clue when you see the nun and the wav at the end, which is nu, that means we, us, our. Okay? So this word is anachnu. Like ani or anaki, remember that means I? Remember? That was I as a singular. Ani is I. Anaki is I in the singular sense. Anachnu is we. Okay? We, us. Okay? That's we. In the plural sense of I. Okay?
Yeah.
Got that?
Yeah.
And new, that's just something you want to get in your heads. When you hear that word new, you know, that's something that will mean us, our, we. Like if I say, like when we're praying, sometimes you'll hear me say, Abinu Melkenu. Melkenu, that's saying our king. Melki is king, from Melech. Okay? You hear the new on the end, that's our. Melkenu, our king. Abinu, our father. Did you catch that? All right, so now I'm going to go through, we're going to finish up by going through these plurals right here. I don't think there's anything else that you already have because you'll be verbalizing. All right, so for you, we have atem. This is the plural for you, and it is the masculine atem. Now, there's a final mem on the end in your notes, okay, which basically looks almost like a square, okay? Atem, aleph, tav, mem. Atem, that's you in the plural. It's a masculine plural for you. You know, I like to say you guys, in that sense, you in the sense of plural, more than one, atem. Aleph, tav, mem. So now, for the feminine of you, it is aten, where we have the aleph, the tav, and the nun. See, aleph, tav, nun, that's the feminine, aten. And that's you, plural, but plural feminine. Aleph, tav, nun. Aten, aten. Plural form of you. All right, so now we want to look at they. You remember when we had he and she, and it was hua and hia. Remember that? Where we're going to use the hey for the plural forms of they, for they, masculine and feminine. So we have him and we have him. So the masculine form, let me change this real quick because this is for they. All right, there we go. Hey and the mem together is the masculine for the plural pronoun they. Him, almost like saying him. Him, masculine. Now the feminine personal pronoun for they is hen. Hen. And that's they. Okay? See that? That's the feminine. Those are the personal pronouns, both the singular and the plurals. So you can see the associations when you look at singular and plural. For the I, you masculine and you feminine under the singulars, there is ani or anaki, then there is ata and at, we see that. Then when we go to the plurals, we see anaknu. For the plural for you, we see atem and atem. Very similar to ata and at. See that? And when we have the singular, he or she, personal pronouns, we have hua and hia, we have him and him for they. So you can see the similarities there. All right. So when you go over your notes again and again, you're going to be able to see the associations and the differences between the singular and the plural. Okay. So that's important. So anything else we need to look at real quickly? No? All right. Then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Bless the Almighty. Father Yahuah, we bless you and thank you for this session of being able to go over this Hebrew review. I trust that the information that has been reviewed has helped to provide a better understanding of the course and also the navigating through the notes and the homework to be able to understand the Hebrew, to navigate through it, to learn the words, and to understand Scripture with more accuracy. Father, we pray that you would bless each of the students. May they grow in their understanding of you and of your ways. We thank you right now in the mighty name of Mashiach. Amen. Those of you joining us today, we want to say thank you. We trust that this review of Hebrew has helped to provide some illumination for those of you who are learning the language and who want to understand more about the rules concerning the language. We also want to invite you to join us in our midweek time of teaching, which is Wednesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are thankful always for your participation and attendance. We say shalom to you and your families. May the Most High bless you richly. Be blessed.
Shalom.